Well, let's do an official intro,
Ooh.
and then we'll do the top of it, which will be our reactions, where we are
Yeah.
with the IP and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, why don't you count me down? So pretend like we're on Attack of the show that we were both on, and then this will help me sort of click in to the character of host.
You got it. All right. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
I'm gonna do the pointing as well. So
Okay.
okay.
I'm gonna try and watch you and look at camera at the same time. Okay, here we go.
All right, Cass. We're gonna be live in 8 seconds. All right, here we go.
Oh shit.
8, 7,
Oh my fuck.
6,
Yeah.
5.
Hey guys, welcome to the Cast of Us. This is our Last of Us discussion show. I'm Cassim G, one of your two co-hosts. Joining me on the other side is Bruce Green. Good evening,
Hey.
Bruce.
Hey, good evening to you, Cass. Hopefully people can hear me. Hopefully I sound good.
Dude, you sound so good. It hurts.
Oh wow, that's hot.
We didn't plan the yellow. If you want, Bruce, I can change because this is, to be honest, I'm
Should I just go
uncomfortable.
shirtless? You think? Should I just go shirtless?
Shirts
maybe?
versus skins?
You want to do shirts versus skins for the first Cast of Us?
The first Cast of Us is shirts versus skins. I think people will deal with it. I think the yellow brings out the yellow in my skin. I don't know. That's not good. But I'm looking at the intro of The Last of Us, and there's plenty of yellow, so I think we're okay. We're thematic
Good.
at least.
I was worried. Yeah.
Bruce, I called you up a couple weeks ago. I said, hey man, would you want to do a Last of Us discussion show with me, your pal, who you've done Fresh Ink with on Attack of the Show, on G4? And what was your initial reaction to that?
I'm gonna
Like,
be
who's
honest with you,
calling?
Cassim, when I got a text message, no, when I got a text message or I think whatever message, Twitter, that's what it was, Twitter DM.
Yeah, Twitter.
I was like, I've always wanted to be best friends with Cassim G. So, I said yes because I thought maybe I could then like sort of parlay this podcast into a best friendship with Cassim.
I'm
And I
so
don't know if
happy you
that'll-
said
that's
that.
gonna work. Yeah, that's but it might happen. It might happen.
I think you're well on your way. I think you've done a
Oh.
couple things so far right. You've come over to my home. You
That's
just
right, I
came
did.
over a few nights ago.
Yeah. I
What
was there.
seems like a month ago now, but it was, I think, just 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
We had a great time. I
Mm-hmm.
poured you a glass of Johnny Walker.
Yeah, it was really good. I don't drink Johnny Walker very often, but I said I
Yeah.
want to be Cassim's best friend,
Yeah.
so I drank it.
And then he goes, "What are you drinking?" And I go, "I'm almost 6 years sober."
Which, by the way, again, is huge and amazing, and I think we should actually acknowledge the fact that that's fucking awesome. So
Please
great job.
don't. Too much adulation I will relapse, and I want to stay sober. It would be
Oh,
if
okay, well,
if it goes
then-
to my head, Bruce, then
Yeah,
I'm off
I
the
heard that.
wagon.
Well, then you're a fuck up,
Yeah, thank you.
and it should have been 16 years. How about that?
Stay on the beam, Cass. Stay on the beam. Thank you, Bruce. Look, yeah, I'm very excited. When we did like our She-Hulk Fresh Inks together, and I thought it was so easy
Great.
to
great.
do a show with you. You are very knowledgeable when it comes to this stuff. You're native to this, so I thought, what better person than Bruce to make our Last of Us recap show? And I'm just like so excited. Let's talk about where we're at with the IP. What's your relationship to The Last of Us? I know you play a lot of games. Like, where is it on your list of top games?
Oh man, Cassim, you're not gonna like. I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. The audience isn't gonna like this. You're not.
I
gonna
want
like
you to
this.
be honest.
So I played The Last of Us Part 1 for the first time in 2020 during the pandemic because I had never played it before. And people kept saying, you're going to love it. It's one of the greatest games of all time. This story is timeless. It's blah, 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 blah.
All right.
And so I think the fans themselves really raised the expectation way too high for a video game that is really good. And the story is pretty good, pretty solid. But I don't think, to me, this is not a best of video game for me.
Okay.
Personally. And I want to say this just at the very top, the very beginning of the Cast of Us podcast here. This is all my opinion. Just because I want you guys to love it as much as you love it. I want you to think that The Last of Us is the greatest story ever told. I want that to happen. I don't. But I want you to think that. So please go right ahead and think it.
I look. I appreciate the honesty. I really do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if there's going to be one thing that's going to be out there is a bunch of people that are stroking the ego of the Last of Us team and like just completely on their knees and like this is the best thing ever. We're not those people. We're not sponsored by anyone. God, it wouldn't be nice, but we want to be completely honest because I love TV, and we had this conversation the other night. It's like we love TV, and I consider myself to be somebody who's one of his main skills is being good at telling you what's good, right?
Me too.
Yeah, I
like
can't
that.
make anything good, but I can watch something and be like, oh, this is of quality. All right, and that is important in a podcaster or somebody who's doing a show. That's recapping and reviewing another show. I think these are qualities we should have. I will tell you, I played The Last of Us when it first came out in 2013. Really did enjoy it. I do think the bar is really low for video game stories.
It is.
And so because of that, when one comes along that is remotely interesting, people kind of fall all over it, and they probably give it more credit than it's due. Do I think that's what happened with The Last of Us? I think The Last of Us did deserve a lot of the sort of pats on the back that it got for story, for gameplay. I'm replaying it right now. I'm playing the remake version on PS5. I think the voice acting's incredible. It looks fantastic.
Great. Yeah.
I got to be honest, sometimes I'm controlling Joel, and I'm like, God, the controls are real slow. They're real clunky. Like, I don't know if they're clunky, but it's just not a game where I feel like I would want to like replay it over and over and over. That being said, story's fantastic. I think it's written really well, and those are the parts that I think are translating and will translate well to the series because it is at its core a story about what it means to like love something and then lose it and be open to loving something. I guess it's just about love, isn't it? And
and I think it's about flawed people too. Because I think the entire world itself is. I actually think that this story skews to the negative. I don't necessarily think this is what would happen to the world.
You think this is more dystopian?
I actually do think this is very like I know people think it's this is realistic, and I actually think this is way more dystopian than they give the humanity credit. So that's just my thoughts on the matter.
It is
like,
dystopian.
For example,
I agree.
It feels that way. And I want to go back because chat was talking about they were saying, well, what video games do you like? And I'll say another thing that again is my opinion. Please don't insult me. I don't think most video games have good writing. I think, generally speaking, writing in video games is pretty poor. One of my favorite single-player video games is 2018's God of War. It's a great video game. The story's amazing. Mm-hmm. I think that's a story that resonates. But most video games, I'm there for the gameplay. The story is fine. Like Cassim, I watch television for good writing.
Yeah.
I don't play video games for good writing. So that's the way I feel about it. So that's why with Last of Us, when like you said, with like when a story is like feels like it has a little more love to it, then people are like, it's the greatest thing of all time. It's like, no, it's fine. Like it's a cool story.
It's fine. And we'll get into our initial episode reactions here very shortly. Quickly, I want to shout out our own 88 Kyles per hour for these wonderful graphics. Who took some time and decided to. I'm like, hey man, we want to kind of do something cool, but not make it look like utter shit. And he was like, I got you, don't worry. And he turned around and made these graphics lickety split. And I think he's in the chat, so shout out 88 Kyles per hour. Okay, let's do it, man. I'm happy we're here, and we're here for the next, I don't know how many weeks? 10? How many episodes are there?
I mean, the way, well, we can talk about it. I thought that was a long episode, right? We're talking an hour and 20 minutes or whatever it was. So is that, I mean.
Yeah, this episode is 120 minutes.
My audio is a little doubled. People are saying that in chat. My audio is just a little doubled.
Okay. What happens if I do this? Talk now.
Let's talk now. Let me see. Let's see how I sound. So I'm a little quieter, but I think I can project for this. I'll project chat. Sorry. I'll try to get it a little loud. I know the
Sounds good.
doubling
Now they're
audio.
saying, okay, all right.
Yeah,
So look, we're doing our best. Okay. Again, your editing team, your suite of editors, make sure they trim this part out. You know, we wouldn't want to look like complete amateurs out there.
no, I think that's already too late, Cass.
It's too late.
So, yeah.
Bruce, this episode aired last night. Like you said, it was 120 minutes long. Was it? No, it was 80 minutes long.
It was 80 minutes long, an hour and 20 is what you're thinking.
Hour and 20.
See, I'm already getting insulted in your chat. Somebody said the dumbass Last of Us statements. Already people are insulting. And I said over and over, please don't insult me.
Well, let me join you in that. Let me join you because people are going to maybe not like what I have to say about this pilot episode, okay?
Ooh,
it's a
really?
It's an 80-minute episode.
Yeah.
Here's my initial, and we're going to go into why we think this, obviously, guys. But here's what I think, because you've seen nothing but like, this show's a 10 out of 10. It's the best video game adaptation it's ever been. It's a really good show. The show so far is good. And when it comes to TV, that's not a bad place to be, especially for a pilot episode. It's not the best hour on TV. It's not even the best hour of a pilot on HBO, but it is a very strong start to a series. It seems that they're really trying to nail what was great about the game and try and mirror it as close as they could without deviating too far from the game. I thought it was very strong. I do have some sort of gripes about sort of things I would have liked to see, but I think it's a very good start, and we are in a good place for a brand new video game adaptation show. I don't think it's the best pilot I've ever seen. I don't even think, I don't know if you've seen Station 11 on HBO.
No, I need to watch it.
So far, to me, Station 11 is a more interesting pilot episode. But who knows? This is that thing that we do, and we've done this plenty of times on Fresh Ink, is where we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, because usually series take a few episodes to establish characters, and then they can start doing fun things. So I think we're in a really good place with The Last of Us. It's fine. It's well acted. It looks beautiful. There's not one scene where I went that looks like they were all on a green screen. Even though I'm sure they were. It looks like some time and care was taking place. I'm a huge fan of Chernobyl and Craig Mazin's work. I thought Chernobyl was one of the best shows on HBO ever.
I think probably of all. I mean, people have said that miniseries might be one of the greatest miniseries of all time ever. Because it really is. Chernobyl's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And if you want to know sort of what Craig Mazin's capable of, you should see it, because I've never experienced a show like Chernobyl, which is sheer and utter dread, episode after episode, and partly because it seemed like all these things really happened, and he was just sort of showing you the ineptitude and blunder after blunder, and these things that were almost so preventable that led to one of the biggest disasters of all time. But the way he told that story was masterful, and so when they said that Craig Mazin was a part of The Last of Us, I was like, we're in good hands, and I still think that we are.
So another interesting thing, since you brought up Chernobyl, I was thinking about this last night, and like we talked about before, Last of Us feels very dystopian. It feels very negative. And actually, one of my main complaints, and this is just my own personal little opinion, is it's really hard for me to root for almost any character in The Last of Us, because everybody seems so shitty.
Right.
But everyone's like, there, that's a side effect of the world, that everybody has to be shitty. Sure. But in Chernobyl, everything goes wrong. It's 5 episodes of shit going wrong.
Yep.
And at the very end, Craig Mazin does an amazing job of making you feel optimistic, because I forget who gives the speech about at the end of kind of here's what we need to do to make sure this never happens again.
Yeah.
And it feels like a very optimistic speech on the heels of something that's terrible. And he made me feel hope at the end of it, which I was really surprised about. Now I hope that that's what happens with Last of Us, because I never feel any hope at the end of Last of Us Part 1, especially not in Part 2. So I'm hoping that the television show makes me feel some hope at the end of it.
Yes, and that to that exact point is why I really enjoyed Station 11, because it was similar. It dealt with a flu-like pandemic in this case that wiped out a big part of the population, and it's all about what life after looks like. And it had a lot of bright spots, and it wasn't so dreary. You know, like sometimes when you watch Handmaid's Tale, you're like, I just can't handle
Yeah.
I can't handle another episode of this show.
That's right.
I can't look at Elizabeth Moss's like watery eyes, for another 60 minutes. It's so dreary. But there were parts in Station 11 when you're like, that was a nice moment. And that moment would have never happened if it wasn't for how dire these circumstances were. I am so on board with that. And I hope you're right. And I hope we do see some hope in it, because otherwise we have enough sort of dread in our own daily lives.
Yeah. Well, that was my,
Yeah.
just to, again, give you some background on me with Breaking Bad. The show is called Breaking Bad, but for the first 2-3 seasons of that show, I was like, man, you know what? They really could go one way with this show, and they don't have to be terrible and shitty. And then they just continued making the characters more and more terrible and shitty.
Yeah.
And the show is masterful. It's one of the greatest television shows of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't care about what happened to Jesse or Walt, or maybe Hank a little bit. But like generally speaking, those characters, most of them are so bad that I just didn't. I'm just like, bleh, like didn't like it.
I agree.
Didn't make me feel any hope. So
we're gonna be.
That's just me, though.
No, this is gonna be great. I think I think we're on the same page. And look, we both think it's been a real strong start so far. And I think what I learned was that originally this was supposed to be 2 episodes. This pilot episode that was 80 minutes. It was originally supposed to end at the part where it flash forwards 20 years, and then he's throwing that body into the fire of the child, and that's kind of where it's supposed to end. So it's kind of, or where it originally had ended for episode 1 and picks up for episode 2. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the beginning of this show. Do you feel, and this is one of my biggest gripes, and Ashley, who we watched this together, she's a huge Last of Us fan. We felt like we could have spent a little more time with Sarah, and I think this will probably be kind of divisive, but I thought I thought we were going to go maybe the whole episode with Sarah, and it seemed like
I did too.
Spoiler alert, Sarah dies, but look, there's going to be spoilers, because I'm assuming most of you have played the game, and if you're watching us right now have watched the episode. But she was played by a fantastic actress. I thought it was great to show the antithesis of what Ellie is. Sarah is like a warm presence. She's thoughtful, and not that Ellie aren't those things, but not when we first meet her. Ellie's grown up in a different world. Sarah, almost like she's looking out for her dad a little bit. We see Joel as more of like a, he's a dad, but he's kind of like trying to make money and he support his family. And he almost seems kind of forgetful. He forgot his own birthday cake, and he doesn't seem to care too much about himself. All of his thinking is placed on his daughter, and I think we had to see those things to see the person that Joel turns into after the pandemic happens. What do you think about like the whole opening, the first act of this episode?
It sounds like you and I were right in exactly the same spot. I obviously know the story of The Last of Us, and we all expect that his daughter dies. We all know that Sarah dies, and I was kind of waiting for that to happen. So, and that's my own bias coming through. I kind of wish I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because it's a pretty good reveal. That said, like we don't know Sarah long enough to ever have a full picture of her character, and I do think it's a little bit of a narrative trick to be like, his daughter dies, so now you must care. And I thought that about the video game, and I think that about the television show. That said, I still think it was really well done. And I think when she dies, and obviously Joel's broken up about it as she's dying in his arms. It really hits hard. It does. You've only spent 30, 40 minutes in the show. And I think you're right, Cassim. I think it should have been longer. I think we should have spent a lot longer with Sarah. But even when she dies, it's still super powerful. And I think that it provides the motivation for the rest of the series. Twisted 84 said it hit harder in the show than the game, in my opinion, and I agree. Actually, in the game, I kind of never really, I didn't feel it too hard, but in the show, the actors just do a masterful job of executing that scene. So.
Yeah, I right there with you. I think it hits harder in the show because we spent more time with her. I think in the game we just have that the opening of her waking up in the house and Joel's not there, and part of what we'll do, by the way, is like we'll talk a little bit about how the game and the show are similar and how they're different, but I don't think we're too interested in doing like a here's exactly what happened in the game and here's exactly what happened in the show. I think me and you just want to like see if the show is good. You know, is the show written well? Is it acted well? There are some scenes that are almost like beat for beat recreations of what happened in the game. My thinking there is because it's also co-show ran with Neil Druckmann, who wrote the game for Naughty Dog, and my thinking is like he's like, well, we kind of nailed it in the game, and they did. They nailed some really great scenes in the game, and there really wasn't a lot of reason to redo them differently. And so, if they could pay homage to the game while also just like doing really good storytelling, I think that's a win-win. And there are some things that are a little bit different. And you know, so far, and what we talked about it being like spores versus tendrils, the show so far isn't very clear about it not having spores, but we did hear that there weren't spores, correct? Can we clear that up?
You and I both read that they had changed. So it's none of it seems airborne, like they don't have to wear gas masks like they do in the video game.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's transferred via bite or injury or blood.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's an airborne type of thing. I could be wrong, but that's what we read even is that Craig Mazin was like, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it another way. And I was like, huh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So either way, the method of getting sick I'm not too worried about. I thought the fungal part was really fun to see how the tendrils came out of the old lady.
That was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was really fun. I thought that there was a shot, as we can see here, there's a shot of the old woman with the tendrils out.
Oh,
it is
so cool.
It is cool, man. And then when she was in the chair behind her,
what a great scene. What a great scene.
It was really fun.
Of that old lady just out of focus, kind of flipping out behind Sarah. It's super creepy. Really, really well done. Again, like a nice build up to what I already knew was coming. So
yeah. And so so it ends. Sarah's sort of chapter ends in the same way it does in the game. They are trying to make their way through. I don't know if it's like a border or what it is, but the military has already sort of. They're trying to contain what's happening. And at this point, Joel had to go bail Tommy out of jail, and they're both like in this truck. They've like he hit the grandma with a wrench, and that was like the first time. I think it was fun to see Sarah see her dad. She didn't know her dad was sort of capable of something like that.
Right.
And they talk about this in the inside look after, but it's sort of mirrored, or it's a reflection of the scene at the very end. Where Ellie sees Joel off that guard, where he goes and does that act of violence on the guard, but Ellie's reaction to it is much different. And it's almost like she almost likes it. She likes what Joel's done. So we've got these two figures that are in his life that see this sort of primal rage come out of him, this sort of parental, here's a shot of the dead grandma, which I think which I think is really fun. I mean, it's like you've got Tommy there pointing the gun at the granny, and maybe you know this or I don't. I know in the game they have stages of what the zombies can go through. They start off as like runners, which are pretty standard zombie fare, where they're just like they look like people, but the fungus is operating, it's fully taken over, and then now they're just like running fast and like they'll do anything to sort of infect you. And then they sort
they
of like
evolve into clickers. They go from the normal angry humans that can infect you to the clickers, where those are the ones that they can't see anything, but their auditory senses are off the charts. They can hear anything, and we haven't gotten to those in the show yet. So
yeah, I would hope maybe next episode there is sort of like there's one in between, like a sick person and then the clickers, and then you've got like the bloaters, and then you've got one other one, which will be fun to see. It really wasn't that way in shows like The Walking Dead, so that's I like seeing where zombie shows sort of and zombie IPs innovate, because they obviously can't just all do the same thing over and over, although a lot of them do. So that's one fun part of seeing kind of what will happen here.
One of my favorite parts of these shows, or anything, I feel like it happens in every single zombie show, which is they always have the character. They always have like one zombie that has turned into some sort of flora, or turned into whatever the virus is. There was a great example of that in The Expanse. There's this really cool like that this person turned into mushrooms, basically. Same in The Last of Us. I love watching that because I think it looked practical. It really did look like somebody actually made that.
Yeah, they
made the person that turned into a bunch of mushrooms and then like blended it into the wall. It really looked practical, but I wasn't sure if that was CG or not. So
yeah,
that was cool. It was really cool.
It's really fun to see that, because we know that like things like parasites take over. I don't know if you've seen those like gross videos on YouTube of when the parasite takes over an insect and it kind of like grows out of it. And and the thought of like, awesome. We always go like, ooh, like, because I think we're scared of the fact that something like that, our bodies can just be used to incubate some sort of virus. And that image that was just on the screen there is a great example of it, when it was on the wall the first time they really see the sort of fungus spread out and using the body as like a home base. All right, so we lose Sarah, and it's a killer scene. It really is. It hits. I think we spent exactly enough time, minimum time, with Sarah to sort of have any sort of sympathy for Joel. I would have loved to spend a full episode with her, maybe, if I were to do it. And I'm assuming they did this because they just have a lot more story and they've got to get to it in the amount of episodes. But I would have liked to see a whole episode with her, and maybe do the 20 years later, maybe at the very end. But and here's an image here that shows you sort of the evolution.
I was expecting that. I was expecting that they were going to end when Sarah dies.
Yeah.
And then it was going to be next episode. And I actually was going to be upset about that.
Right.
I was going to be like, I don't care. Like, I mean, it's great, but I'm really glad they got into the world of The Last of Us. The episode's an hour and 20 minutes long. And I kept thinking to myself, I didn't know that. So when I watched it, I thought it was an hour. So when I was watching it, I was like, this seems long. And so by probably around the hour mark, I was like, this feels too long, but I'm not bored. So by the end of hour and 20, I thought it was a well-paced hour 20.
It was really well-paced. Yeah.
I was actually really surprised. And I don't think we're going to get an hour 20 episode every week, right?
No, I don't know if we even have the patience to do that, as a viewing audience, but that would be nice. I think
it'd be crazy. How many episodes, like,
that's a feature film every week.
Well, Al Clean said, I heard all episodes will be that long.
Oh, really?
And I mean, like, I would be kind of surprised. I mean, like, again, if this is like what's known as a kind of a mini series, it'll be 6 episodes or 7 episodes. But if each episode is an hour 20, woo, you got to really make time for that.
You got to make time. It would make sense. It wouldn't be the only time I think they did that with like one of the later Game of Thrones seasons, right? Which ended well. Everyone loved the way that whole series ended. Yeah. All right. So look, so she dies, and we sort of flash forward. It's 20 years later.
Oh, sorry,
Joel,
Cassim. Can I stop you? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
please,
I'm sorry. I need to call out
have
the
to.
scene of them driving through town as everything's
Oh yeah,
exploding,
yeah.
because
You see a little bit of that here on
it's
screen.
it, it is exactly that in the video game, and it's a great scene in the video game at the very beginning, and it really launches you into it. But the television show did a fucking awesome job.
Yeah.
There's just a fucking sick ass plane crash that happens, and it's just really well done. So they really didn't skimp here. Like everything looks terrific, and
It looked great.
it felt exactly like the game. There's that sort of the backseat shot of what it feels like to be driving in the car for a very long time, and they killed it. Sorry, Cassim, I didn't mean to.
No, that's why. And great call out. I think that part when we're thinking about before the show came out, what's that show going to be like? Oh, what are scenes I want to see? What do I want to see done on screen? And that's definitely one of them. I love a big mess of a scene. You've got a lot of extras. You've got chaos, because all that stuff is like finely tuned filmmaking, and it's really, really hard to do, and it costs a lot of money, and so it's really fun to see somebody tackle big giant scenes like that. And it was fun to see the planes, because earlier in the sort of 1968 talk show, when they had the epidemiologists on there, they were talking about, well, how would it spread? They were like, well, because of now everyone uses airplanes for travel. Well, airplanes are going to be one of the ways this thing goes global. And when she's in the back of that seat, you just see all those planes. One goes over. Eventually, one crashes, and it's in a giant fireball. But it's one of those things where you're like, oh man, well, that whole plane is going to some other state or country, and boy, is this fire, like, are we fucked? That's the vibe we get. So we have
good news, by the way. Bite-itis says The Last of Us Episode 2 Infected has a runtime of 55 minutes.
Okay, good. I can do 55.
Yeah, that's easy. That's an easy one.
I'd like it to be shorter. Yeah, I was trying to go through the episode and find some images that I thought were real fun, and I ran out of time because the episode's so long. But if you can it was really easy to find good images because everything is so well photographed. The director of photography did a fantastic job. Almost every time I would freeze it, it was on a very cool shot. The quarantine zone. This is the other thing. So we're fast forward for 20 years. We see Joel. He is now he's a different man. Obviously, he's a little older, but he's like a colder, just more somber person, and he's shoveling bodies in a fire. And this woman next to him, she's like, I can't. This one's a kid, and you go to Joel, because Joel's sort of like an emotionless, hardened sort of guy, and he'll put the body in the fire. And this is the guy that we just spent the last half hour with, who had a daughter, and it's like tough to see him, make that change.
And then he just does it.
And he just does it. And
just throws the body right in the fire and kind of doesn't bat an eye about it. I mean, he very briefly has just maybe a moment of reflection. And I think you're right. I think 20 years of feeling completely and emotionally void will do it to you. And it just seems like he definitely didn't talk to a therapist about what happened, because the world went to shit, and I'm sure most therapists died. But yeah, he's all he's had to do is just survive, and now we're in this world. The quarantine zone. Here's my other gripe of the show. Okay, I would have and me and Ashley said this, and she was the first to say it, that we wanted more time in the quarantine zone to see what daily life was like. Now we did get a little bit of it, right? We did see him sort of go apply for jobs. We did see what it was like, and I don't know, man. It had a very, Dust Bowl, almost
like Germany in the like late like 40s vibe. It was like didn't seem like a place you would want to live, but if you wanted to survive, you just had to go. You just had to be here, waiting in line and hoping you got a job that would pay you in a ration ticket. And so we also learned that Joel has been smuggling drugs. You know,
I feel like that was a callback to the previous line
yeah,
of Sarah saying, "Oh, I'm selling hardcore drugs,"
yes,
and then you see Joel actually selling hardcore drugs to live.
yeah. There's a lot of nice little touches like that. That if I watched it kind of for like a second time this afternoon or half of it, and I noticed that there's a lot of stuff that I'm not paying attention to that like pay off later, which is fun. It's always good when a show. It's a good sign of good writing.
That's good writing. I mean, we already knew that Craig Mazin could do that, right, with Chernobyl and
Absolutely.
other stuff that he's written. So yeah. So I mean, I expected it, and like, dare I say, maybe the writing might be a little punchier than the game.
Yeah.
For me. But I know again, I know that the video game Last of Us audience is just rabid. They love that game. So I don't want you to ever think that I'm shitting on your game, because I'm not. It wasn't as big of a deal for me as it was for you, and that's okay.
Yeah. There's a brutality in this show that was there in the game, but I think they're really trying to, like, really put a spotlight on it. There's a shot here with this kid who just kind of stumbles in to the quarantine zone in Boston. As you see, Boston there has been leveled. And this kid is tested, and we got a little red light on the tester indicating that this kid is positive. And then the sort of, I don't know what, this guard or administrator just lies to this kid, who I think is a little boy, and says, we're going to get you your favorite thing to eat. You're going to get toys. And we know that this kid's just going to be like thrown in a giant pile and burned alive, right? Or
well, I mean, not yet.
Maybe
hopefully.
not burned alive, but they will burn his body. It's rough. It's a brutal world, and it's not one we want to live in. It's totally dystopian. And if this is the way things are, God, there's got to be another group of people that are trying to do something about it.
I mean, and there are, and we know them from the game, right? The Fireflies, but I feel like just as bad. And this has always been my issue with the video game, is that, like, well, do I side with Joel and Ellie and Marlene and everybody who seem to be relatively terrible because they have to be, or whatever, and then the Fireflies, who are supposedly the idealists of this post-apocalypse, but also terrible. So I'm not sure who to side with.
Yeah, who exactly? It seems like there's got to be a better option than what's happening here at the quarantine zone. But also maybe not, like
yeah.
It seems like if you're a Firefly, you may at any moment just be killed because you're a quote unquote terrorist. But is there, like, I don't know, is their cause seem worthy enough, or are they just using Ellie to further their agenda? Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone kind of sucks is the thing.
That's the major question in the game, is that is Ellie's immunity, are they using it to further, like, make themselves richer, make themselves more powerful, the Fireflies, or are they actually trying to help the human race? And the game would never really made it clear to me. I mean, I know most of the Fireflies seem like idealists and seem like they want to solve the problem of the infection, but playing through the video game, the more you do, the more you realize, they're just as bad. So again,
what would you
I'll
be?
go back to what I said. I mean, I guess I'd probably be a Firefly. I don't know. Like,
right. But the safety of working for Fedra, and just being a guard, and just, it seems nice. And I don't want to pretend like I'm above it. I don't.
Well, wait, Kasim, I think I know your answer, but would you just be Fedra? Is that what you'd be?
I'd be a dirty Fedra. Like, I'd be
I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew you'd be a dirty Fedra.
I'd be doing drugs, as we know, and I could double cross. I'd go wherever the grass was quote unquote greener. I would be such a slime ball. You know what I mean? I would just have to do whatever I had to do to survive, and there would be no shame, because look at the world we live in. God, there is no
See,
God. Nothing exists. Look at us now.
see, that's like I would be, I would be a Firefly, but I would probably be the one that like was like, come on, guys, like let's have some hope, and then I get shot in the head,
Yeah.
and everyone will be like, well, that's because he was an idealist
Right.
and not not somebody who was being honest with himself about the whole situation. So,
Absolutely.
um,
And if I was a
yeah,
Firefly, I would be the one that would be using Ellie to further my own position and state, you know?
right.
Like when if the Fireflies do end up making it and we do overthrow Hydra, I'm looking at like Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense.
I like that you said overthrow Hydra. You didn't say Fedra.
Oh,
You said,
Fedra, sorry.
I love that you said it like the MCU.
Yeah, that's right. It all comes back to the MCU. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. So look. So it turns out now we meet Tess. Tess is our. She's kind of our girlfriend, right? She's We can tell there's some
Yeah.
sort of relationship there.
Oh yeah.
She's not too delicate of a flower, I'd say.
No.
What
I
kind of
think she's
woman is
supposed to be.
Tess? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't remember. I was actually trying to remember this in the game, but in the show, she's got a black eye and a big old cut on her chin, and she's just fucked. Like
Yeah.
the first time, you can't even really get a good look at what the actress actually looks like because
Right.
she's so fucked when you first
Absolutely.
meet her.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if the video game did that same thing where you just see beat up Tess from the beginning.
Yeah,
and
with Tess, I don't really. I remember going on a mission with Tess, and here in the show we're trying to go get a battery because why? Because he's trying to go meet Tommy, right? And Tess, by
Right,
the
he
way,
wants
is
a
played
truck.
by Anna Torv, who if you've watched Fringe, she was in 100
Oh.
episodes of Fringe. Yeah, she's great.
Oh, okay, all right. No, I mean, like I knew I recognized her, but I didn't watch Fringe, so
Mm-hmm.
she kills it though. Tess, I mean, she's fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that again, going back to the dystopian nature of the show, Tess clearly has had to do some terrible shit to stay alive, and we all just sort of accept it and go like, well, I guess there are heroes. you
Yeah,
know?
these are the
They're the
folks.
ones-
Yeah, these are the
that
ones
we gotta follow.
Maybe she is a dainty flower in the future, Maybe she maybe compared to everyone else, you never know. Yeah, so and Tommy, by the way, his brother's played by Diego Luna, who if you've watched Agents of Shield, I think that's the way he's or whatever. He's Robbie Reyes. He's Ghost Rider in
Is his name Diego? It's not Diego Luna, is it? Because Diego
yeah.
Luna's from Andor. Is it Diego Luna?
No, not his name is Gabriel Luna. Sorry,
Gabriel Luna. There we go.
Luna. Gabriel Luna, who is
that's
Robbie
Ghost
Reyes,
Rider.
Ghost Rider. Yeah.
I knew I recognized him.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we've got we have folks like Nick Offerman coming up in some of these episodes, so it'll be fun to see kind of what happens. Somebody was saying in my chat today, there's a whole episode devoted to just one note that you find in the game, and so
wow.
yeah, it'll be fun to see kind of where they go and how they decide to tell this story. So they go and sort of meet Marlene, right? Marlene is played by the same actress who plays Marlene in the game. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which I think
so
is
cool.
cool. Yeah, they gave
Yeah.
parts to Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker. They're also in the series. Ashley, who plays Ellie, Troy Baker, who plays Joel. I think they play. I think Ashley plays Sarah's mom, I believe, in the game. Or in the show. And so, yeah, it's great. I think they are doing their best to pay, respect to voice actors and not do that thing that we see happen every time where they just recast. And although I do like Pedro Pascal as Joel, I think it's a really great fit. And yeah, I mean, he's tremendous. We're lucky to have him. And
I've been a fan of his since Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been following sort of him through Game of Thrones and then to Narcos and obviously to the Mandalorian, which we don't see him very often. But it's just so much fun to watch.
I hear he's in Mandalorian. That's from what I
Yeah.
understand. I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
he's in that game.
Yeah, no, Pedro Pascal's he's just a treasure. And always great. Kind of, I mean, like he's the only redeeming part, at least in my opinion, of Wonder Woman 1984.
Yes,
Uh,
I actually just said that same exact thing. That movie was really tough to
yeah,
put down and to
yeah,
swallow, but he was the sugar that helped the medicine go down. He's always
yeah. He
so
kills it.
charismatic, even when he's playing a complete douche. You know, he was so good in that. Yeah,
Yeah, he kills it. So yeah, so he's. I mean, like we could rave about him all day.
and I think we should. I think
Oh, okay,
stay
all
tuned
right.
for the our Patreon episode of this podcast where we suck Pedro Pascal off for an hour. Okay, so they finally introduce Ellie and Joel to each other, and it's kind of very similar to how it is in the game. I think Ellie, who's played by Bella Ramsey, who's also from Game of Thrones. What do you think of her as Ellie so far?
I mean, like again, it's like it's so hard for me to like these characters and like what they do, but Bella Ramsey's just the best. Like
She's great.
I remember she stood out. I can't remember her character's name in Game of Thrones, but I mean, like everyone loved her every time. She was barely in She was in Game of Thrones for like 15 scenes over the course of 5 years
For
or whatever
sure.
it is.
Yeah.
But she kills it in every scene. She draws all the attention to her. So it's going to be really fun to see these two with so much charisma between the two of them. And from what I've seen from like interviews and stuff, their chemistry really meshed. So it looks like they're going to just be so much fun to watch. I was yeah. Oh, thank you, Leanna Mormont. That's what it is.
Leanna Mormont.
Yeah, she killed it in Game of Thrones. So it's going to be fun to watch them get more and more familiar with each other. I just hope the characters themselves don't ruin it for me, where they're so shitty to each other and to everybody else that I'm like, ugh. I hope that doesn't happen. That said, as actors, I can't wait to watch them act this show to pieces. It's gonna be great.
Totally. The relationship between Ellie and Joel so far has been great. It's exactly kind of what you would hope. She's smart. She's got a mouth on her. She's she does seem kind of like the complete opposite to what his daughter was like.
That's right.
And he's gonna resist the urge to care for this person for a while. I've been playing, I've been replaying the game, like I said, and I'm like 80% of the way through, and Joel just told Ellie, we need to go our separate ways. Like, I don't care for you. We need to go our separate ways. So how, and I'm that far into the game. So how they sort of manage that in this series will be interesting. What makes their relationship so rewarding is so, how Joel is always trying to avoid it. It's inevitable, right? He's eventually has to take care of this person. And when you take care of somebody long enough, you will feel something more than just, I'm protecting this thing. He's going to have emotions and feel for her, but how long can he resist that? That's kind of what we're seeing inside of him. When he was about to, just before, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit and we can go back, but just before he takes down that guard at the end and he's looking at him, and the guard has its gun up and it's triggering him to that moment where he lost his daughter, and he has that quick little flashback. He instinctually does what he probably wanted to do in the first place, which is just attack and protect. And that's kind of what he does. And like I mentioned earlier, Ellie looks at it and she's like, oh yeah. I mean, dare I say she was stoked.
She's into it.
Yeah, she was very into it. And in their inside look, they talk about how that's going to be a problem. How it's almost kind of like a toxic relationship that they're about to embark on. This is not, when you see somebody do something like that and your reaction is like, oh yeah, that's not healthy.
No, it's true. I mean, I think that's probably the bigger lesson in Last of Us Part 2 is that violence begets violence, right? So if somebody's, super excited about the fact that there's going to be a lot of violence going on when they're near them, well, then it's only going to get more violent.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, not between the two of them, but around them. And then they might get into a spot where the violence, where they can't overcome that. So also going back to your previous point, about how, Joel's eventually going to develop a bond with Ellie, even though he keeps trying to put it off. To me, that's the whole lesson of the game, is that this really applies. This, I think, applies to real life, which is no matter how much you feel like you've been hurt, let's say you had your heart broken, or let's say, somebody left you, or you had a friend wrong you or something like that, and you kind of push yourself away. Eventually, you're probably going to meet another human being that you like, and you might start forming a bond, and then you're going to put up your walls. But the way that those walls come down is going to define your relationship with those people in the future, and it's going to be really tough to keep those walls up for your entire life, because you kind of can't do that. Humans are social beings, and I like to see the way that this is going to develop in the show, because I think it develops really well in the video game.
It absolutely does. It's the whole crux of the whole thing. It's such a great point you made. Is it's to be human, you kind of have to be social, right? And so in these 20 years, he seems like he's shut down, and he's almost become inhuman, right? Like, what kind of person just throws a little kid's body into a fire without really taking too long of a beat? He just kind of does it, and he is at his most inhuman right now. And what we're seeing is Ellie chip away at that, and she's gonna chip away at it in a way that Tess can't. Tess has to kind of baby Joel a lot of the time, being like, all right, take a breath, hold on a second. You're going to get angry. Yeah. I need you to just she's talking to him like almost like a dog that's ready to just go bite, and that's what's so interesting, is that out of all these people, it's going to be Ellie that's going to be the one that sort of brings him back to this sort of human state. There's a moment where Marlene sits down with Ellie and kind of tells her, "Oh, I know who you are. I'm the one that put you in that program," and it was interesting to see that it was a nice little moment. Like if you were watching that and you were wondering which side of this you wanted to be on, whether you wanted to be on the Fireflies or on the other side, this was a nice moment, chalk up for a win for the Fireflies, because it does seem like Marlene cares about her, but I wonder how much of that is about her versus just about the cause, about getting a vaccine and a cure for what's happening.
My initial thought was that Marlene was doing it to help the world. Didn't seem like she wanted any glory. I couldn't really
felt that way.
It didn't feel like she was doing it for selfish reasons. I didn't hear her say anything that would have led me to believe that. So I was with the Fireflies on this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, all right, I'm in. Let's do it.
I would be in on the Fireflies here too, only to again bolster my own state, and right. I want to be on the winning team. What about the sort of reveal that Ellie had been bitten, and there is a sort of a corner that Joel takes where he's like, oh shit, this person is important, and I've got to really take care of this person, as opposed to when he was just sort of smuggling a human being. There was a realization that he had a big job at hand. It's kind of fun. I liked how that kind of came about. I like the little tester that they have.
Oh yeah, it's like big green light or big red light.
Could you imagine if that's how we had to get COVID tested?
Yeah,
we just had to get a little prick in the neck
over and over.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen next episode? Where do we sort of how far do they take it? Who do we expect to see? Do you have any sort of hopes and dreams for this next 55 minutes?
I think we're going to get some good clicker.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be combat so much as tension.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get a lot of them trying to figure out how to get around the clickers, because we even get to see one at the very end of the episode. I don't know if you saw him on the roof. You see
Oh
the
no,
little
I
guy.
missed it.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah,
little clicker running around on the roof, kind of watching him walk into the city. So I'm looking forward to the way they navigate that, because the gameplay is very similar, probably, to what they're going to do in the television show, which is like Joel's going to have to use, he's going to have to be crouched a lot of the time and have to be like listening for, where the clickers are and where they're not, and because they can't fight every one of them.
totally.
And that's what I'm really interested to see how they communicate that, because in a video game you can die, so that when a clicker attacks you and you get one shotted, you're done, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I learned that, I won't do that again. How are they going to show us that in the television show? How are they going to show us how clickers are one shot, right?
Yeah.
If a clicker gets a hold of you, that's it, you're done. So I'm curious. They're not going to kill off anybody of note, but it'll be fun to see those deaths.
Yeah, it will.
So-
Yeah, what's nice is that storytelling mechanic is similar to A Quiet Place, where it's like we've got to be quiet, or else it's such a great way of building tension. And as you can see here, I think this guy's a little more evolved version. I mean, the makeup looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it's so cool.
It looks so great. Yeah, man, I'm really less concerned about where we end up, I guess, and more of just interested to see what Joel and Ellie's relationship evolves and how quickly it evolves, because I know where it ends up. And if those of us that have played the game, we know where it ends up, right? We know eventually. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it for those of you that haven't played it.
Don't.
But what I will say is that really take your time and just enjoy the ride, because not everyone you see on screens can always be there. Okay? And take that into your real life. Enjoy the people around you. Tell the ones you love them, because you never know when a fungal parasite will break out and take over their body and turn them into lifeless zombies. Bruce?
I mean, that's good.
You're going to be a dad soon.
I don't really have any more to add to that. Cassim's right, guys. Live each day to the fullest, because you might be a mushroom.
Man. Anything before we wrap up this first episode of the Cast of Us, Bruce?
No, I want to say thanks again, Cassim, and hopefully this is one step further to being your best friend.
You are right there, man. You are, let's say, you're creep. I'd say we're already better friends than me and Fiona. That's not hard to do.
Wow.
You passed Kevin a long time ago. I think the first day I met you, you passed Kevin.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Okay. I mean, that's not a very high bar to pass.
No. Because every day my like of Kevin, it dwindles, and it's sort of it's going towards hatred. So.
Oh wow. You're
yeah.
on the negative side.
He's almost an enemy now. Yeah, especially after that podcast we did today. So, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you're watching on my channel, please subscribe to at Bruce Green if you aren't already. Attack of the Show alumni, all you G4 heads. This guy's he's one of us. He's also been on Rooster Teeth. It's all over the place. You're on Twitch. What's your schedule every week on Twitch?
I'm on there every 1 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. Pacific time, basically every single day. So it's like we're talking 7 days a week. Yeah, I'm there all the time.
That's
Cassim,
the way to do it.
What about you? I know you're streaming on Twitch now a lot. When do you stream?
Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm there Monday through Thursday every week. We do.
You're lazy. We call that lazy in the biz.
Well, and that's exactly what I am. And so the sooner you know that, the sooner you'll know kind of what you're going to tune in for. We like to go IRL all the time. This Wednesday, I think we're going to be going to a Persona 4 event. Me and Ashley will be there streaming live. And yeah, we do on the Cream team, we do 2 podcasts a week. We have a Discord. You can join the cream.team. But yeah, right here on Twitch every Monday through Thursday.
You should subscribe to Cassim, because when he streams, the 2 days a week or 1 day a week you stream, they're great. They're great streams, but he's only there, I want to say, like 2 hours a week or something. So
it's I do it in between the other stuff that I really want to do. So I appreciate. Yeah.
Wow. Really, way to make the audience feel special.
No, yeah, tune in. It's my life, guys. It's all I have right now. Please follow, subscribe. I'm kidding. This is all the only thing I look forward to.
This is all a joke. We're all
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Bruce, thank you. I will see you right here next week for episode 2.
That's right. We're gonna be. I don't know how many. I still don't know how many episodes there are in the season, but we're gonna do every episode.
Let's just assume like it's a limitless season, and we'll continue to do this for the rest of our lives until we are old men.
It sounds like we're best friends now.
You just crossed the line of best friendship. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. And this is where we should have a tag or like some sort of catchphrase that we say at the end of every episode. So for Casman Bruce and our Cast of Us episode, I'm Casman.
Follow the light.
Dude, nice one. I was going to say like eat your vegetables or something. That was good. I had to follow the light. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button. Click the notification bell. That way you know when we go live or upload a video. You know, that's the way to do it. I think Bruce is going to put this up on his YouTube channel. So, yeah, do that. And we're here every week until the show is over. And then we'll find another reason or another show to watch and be in front of you every week. So, all right, Bruce. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone in chat.
Bye, everybody. Bye, chat.
See you guys.